The grand ballroom of Aurora Station's luxury hotel shimmered with holographic displays and the glitter of expensive jewelry. Sarah Lindholm moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, her tray of champagne flutes balanced perfectly despite the exhaustion weighing down her bones. 23 years old, and she felt ancient, hollowed out by endless shifts and crushing medical debt. Her younger sister Mira was dying. The aggressive neural disease had ravaged the 17-year-old's body for 2 years, and the only treatment that might save her was experimental, expensive, and entirely out of reach. 750,000 credits. It might as well have been 7 million. Sarah had worked herself to the bone, double shifts at the station's restaurant, weekend catering gigs, every spare moment spent trying to earn enough. But it was never enough. She'd watched her vibrant, brilliant sister fade day by day, and the helplessness was eating her alive. The room tilted suddenly, and Sarah realized she hadn't eaten in nearly 20 hours. She tried to steady herself, but her legs simply gave out. The tray slipped from her fingers, and she heard crystal shattering against the polished floor as darkness rushed in. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Sarah found herself looking up into the most striking ice-blue eyes she'd ever seen. The man holding her had dark hair, a jaw that could cut glass, and an expression of genuine concern that seemed at odds with his expensive formal wear. "Don't move," he said, his voice commanding but somehow gentle. "Medical team to the grand ballroom immediately." "No," Sarah gasped, trying to push herself upright. Panic flooded through her exhaustion. "I can't afford medical care. Please, I'm fine." His eyes narrowed, assessing. "When did you last eat?" Sarah's mind went blank. "Yesterday morning? The day before?" She'd been giving most of her meal credits to Mira, who needed the nutrition more. "I had breakfast," she lied automatically. "You're a terrible liar." The man's expression told her he knew exactly what she was doing. "Security, forget medical, my transport is outside. I'm taking her to my personal physician." "Sir, I don't think that's appropriate," the catering supervisor interjected, her face pinched with disapproval. "She's just a waitress who couldn't handle the job. We'll deal with this internally." The man stood, still cradling Sarah effortlessly. "And you are?" "Margaret Chen, catering supervisor." "This employee is my responsibility." "Then you're responsible for sending a clearly malnourished young woman to work without proper breaks or food." His voice had dropped to something dangerous. "I suggest you worry less about appropriate and more about whether you want my lawyers examining your labor practices." Sarah wanted to disappear. Instead, she found herself being carried through the ballroom, past hundreds of staring faces, and into the cool corridor beyond. The man's transport turned out to be a sleek private shuttle that probably cost more than Sarah would earn in her lifetime. St. Catherine's Medical Center, he instructed his pilot, settling Sarah into seats that felt like clouds. "Priority clearance." "I really can't afford this," Sarah whispered, fighting tears of humiliation. "I have a sister who needs." "I'm covering it," he said simply. "Now tell me your name." "Sarah Lindholm." "Cade Ashford." He said it as if she should recognize it, and somewhere in the fog of her exhausted mind, she did. Cade Ashford was one of the wealthiest men in the sector, the founder of Ashford Mining, which controlled half the asteroid belt operations. His face appeared regularly in business feeds and society pages. "Why are you helping me?" It didn't make sense. Men like Cade Ashford didn't help people like her. His jaw tightened. "Because I made a promise once that I would never stand by and watch someone suffer when I had the power to help. I failed that promise. I won't fail it again." At the medical center, Cade carried her past the crowded waiting area into a private examination suite. The physician, a striking woman with purple skin marking her as Zalaran, took one look at Sarah and her expression turned grim. "I'm Dr. Zephyr," she said, her melodic accent pronounced. "Let me examine you." Over the next hour, Dr. Zephyr asked questions Sarah answered with increasing reluctance. Yes, she'd lost weight. No, she wasn't trying to. Yes, she was eating, sort of. No, she didn't have an eating disorder. She was just trying to keep her sister alive. Miss Lindholm, Dr. Zephyr said gently after reviewing the test results, you're severely malnourished and dehydrated. Your body is in starvation mode. How long has this been going on? Since Mira got sick, Sarah admitted. 2 years. Your sister? Cade's voice was sharp. And so Sarah told them. About Myra's neural disease, about their parents dying in a shuttle accident 5 years ago, about the crushing cost of treatment and her desperate attempts to earn enough. About watching her brilliant, beautiful sister fade away while she stood helpless. The experimental treatment at New Geneva could save her, Sarah finished, wiping at her tears. But it cost 750,000 credits, and I've only managed to save 30,000. Cade was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I'll pay for it. Sarah stared at him. What? All of it. The treatment, the hospital stay, everything Mira needs. Why? The word came out as a sob. Why would you do that? Because I have a proposition for you, Cade said, his ice-blue eyes intense. And in exchange for what I'm asking, your sister's life seems a fair trade. Dr. Zephyr's violet eyes narrowed suspiciously, but she remained silent. What kind of proposition? Sarah asked, her heart hammering. I need a wife, Cade said bluntly. Temporarily. My grandfather's will stipulates that I must be married to inherit his controlling shares in Ashford Mining. Without those shares, my board will push me out of my own company. The marriage needs to last 1 year. In exchange for playing my wife, attending events, maintaining the appearance of a relationship, I'll pay for Myra's entire treatment. Sarah couldn't process the words. You want me to marry you? A complete stranger? It's a business arrangement, nothing more. Separate quarters, no expectations beyond public appearances. After 1 year, we divorce quietly, and you walk away with enough money to complete your education and start fresh. This is insane, Sarah whispered. Probably, Cade agreed. But your sister is dying, and I'm offering you the means to save her. What do you say, Sarah Lindholm? Will you be my wife? Dr. Zephyr made a sound of disapproval, but Sarah barely heard her. She thought of Myra's face, the way her sister smiled even through the pain, the light slowly fading from her eyes. Yes, Sarah said. I'll marry you. The marriage ceremony took place 3 days later in a sterile government office with no family, no friends, just witnesses required by law. Sarah wore a simple white dress purchased from a discount store, and Cade slipped a platinum band on her finger that probably cost more than she'd earned in her entire life. He kissed her cheek perfunctorily for the official recording, and then she was Mrs. Sarah Ashford. The name felt like a costume, a role she was playing in some elaborate theater production. Cade's quarters occupied an entire level of Aurora Station's most exclusive residential tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the nebula beyond, and the interior design spoke of wealth so casual it didn't need to announce itself. Sarah stood in the entryway with her single bag, feeling like an intruder. Your suite is here, Cade said, leading her down a corridor lined with original artwork. He opened double doors to reveal a bedroom larger than the cramped apartment she'd shared with Mira. You have your own bathroom, sitting area, and office space. The household AI will provide anything you need. It's beautiful, Sarah managed, though the luxury felt suffocating. A stylist will arrive tomorrow to update your wardrobe. You'll need appropriate clothing for the events we'll attend. His tone was businesslike, discussing her like a project to be managed. I have a conference call in 20 minutes. Make yourself comfortable. And just like that, he was gone, leaving Sarah alone in her gilded prison. The first week was a study in uncomfortable coexistence. Cade left early each morning and returned late, often after Sarah had retreated to her room. When they did interact, it was with formal politeness that felt more isolating than silence. The stylist had filled her closet with designer clothes that made her feel like a doll being dressed for display, but Mira was responding to treatment. Dr. Zephyr sent daily updates, and each one brought cautious hope. That made everything worthwhile. On the 8th day, Dr. Zephyr visited the apartment for Myra's weekly consultation via hologram. The purple-skinned physician materialized in the living room, her violet eyes finding Sarah immediately. "How are you adjusting?" Zephyr asked once Myra's consultation ended. "Fine," Sarah lied, curled up on the sofa that was too expensive to feel comfortable. Zephyr sat beside her, somehow making the holographic projection seem solid and warm. "You're a terrible liar, just like your sister. Talk to me, Sarah." And so she did. The loneliness, the feeling of being a purchased object, the way Cade treated her like a business acquisition rather than a person. Zephyr listened without judgment, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "Cade Ashford has a reputation," Zephyr said carefully. "He's brilliant in business but famously cold in personal relationships. His ex-fiancée, Natasha Volkov, very publicly betrayed him 3 years ago. She was caught selling company secrets to competitors. Since then, he's kept everyone at arm's length. So I'm just another transaction to him," Sarah said bitterly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps he's protecting himself the only way he knows how." Zephyr's purple hand, or its holographic representation, covered Sarah's. "But Sarah, you need to protect yourself too. Don't lose who you are trying to fit into his world. And don't let yourself fall for a man who may never be capable of loving you back." The warning came too late. Sarah was already halfway in love with her cold, distant husband. That evening, Cade came home earlier than usual carrying takeout containers. "I thought we could eat together," he said, almost awkwardly. "If you're not busy." They sat at the dining table, and for the first time, Cade actually asked about her day. She told him about her resumed xenobiology studies, the courses she was taking remotely. He listened with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions that showed he'd actually researched her field. "Why xenobiology?" he asked. "Because Myra's disease is technically xenological. It came from exposure to alien microbiology on one of the outer colonies. I wanted to understand it, maybe find ways to help others like her." Sarah pushed food around her plate. "But I had to quit school when our parents died and Mira got sick." "You can finish now," Cade said. "I meant what I said, your education is part of our arrangement. Whatever you need, it's yours. Why are you being kind to me?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "We both know this is just business." Cade was quiet for a long moment. "Because you deserve kindness, Sarah. You've sacrificed everything for your sister. The least I can do is make this year bearable for you." Something in his tone made her look up, and for just a moment, she saw past his controlled facade to something raw underneath. Loneliness that mirrored her own. Over the next weeks, their relationship shifted subtly. Cade started coming home for dinner regularly. They'd talk for hours about everything: her studies, his business challenges, books they'd both read, dreams they'd abandoned. He never touched her beyond formal hand-holding at public events, but his eyes would linger on her face with something that looked almost like longing. 3 months into their marriage, they attended a charity gala. Sarah wore a stunning emerald gown the stylist had chosen, and for the first time, she felt almost beautiful. Cade's eyes had darkened when he saw her, and the compliment he'd given her, "You look extraordinary," had sounded genuinely moved. They were dancing when Natasha Volkov appeared. She was everything Sarah wasn't: tall, sophisticated, dripping with diamonds and confidence. Her smile was predatory as she approached. "Cade, darling," Natasha purred, completely ignoring Sarah. "I heard the most amusing rumor that you'd gotten married." "It's true," Cade said coolly, his arm tightening around Sarah's waist. "Natasha, this is my wife, Sarah. Natasha's gaze raked over Sarah with undisguised contempt. How quaint. Where did you find her? The station's charity ward? I was a waitress, Sarah said calmly, refusing to be ashamed. I worked multiple jobs to support my dying sister. A waitress. Natasha laughed, the sound cruel. Well, that's certainly a step down for you, Cade. Though I suppose she's trainable. Tell me, dear, did he explain how this works? You play the devoted wife, he gets his inheritance, and then you're quietly paid off and discarded? It's very transactional, but then again, so was I, and we both know how that ended. Sarah felt heat flood her face, but before she could respond, Cade pulled her close and kissed her. Not the perfunctory pecks they'd shared for cameras, but a real kiss, deep, possessive, claiming. Sarah's mind went blank, her body responding instinctively as she melted into him. When he pulled back, his ice-blue eyes were blazing. Does that answer your question, Natasha? My wife is none of your concern. Stay away from us. He led Sarah off the dance floor and out to a private balcony, where the nebula painted the darkness in swirls of purple and gold. Sarah was shaking, her lips still tingling from the kiss. I'm sorry, Cade said, running a hand through his hair. Natasha has always been vindictive. I shouldn't have used you like that. She was right though, wasn't she? Sarah's voice broke. This is transactional. I'm just another business deal to you. Cade turned to face her, something fierce in his expression. Maybe it started that way. But Sarah, somewhere in the last 3 months, this stopped being business for me. I look forward to coming home because you're there. I think about you during meetings. That kiss wasn't just for show. Her breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I care about you. More than I should, more than is wise given our arrangement. He searched her face. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Sarah's heart was racing. She'd been trying so hard not to fall for him, knowing their marriage had an expiration date. But it was too late, she'd fallen anyway. You're not alone, she whispered. The kiss that followed was nothing like the display for Natasha. This was desperate, hungry, full of 3 months of suppressed longing. Cade's hands tangled in her carefully styled hair, and Sarah pressed against him, needing to eliminate any space between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. Come home with me, he said roughly. Really come home. Not to your suite, but to mine. Sarah nodded, unable to form words. The transport ride back to their building was charged with anticipation. Cade held her hand the entire time, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm that made her shiver. Inside the apartment, he led her past the corridor to her suite and into his private wing. His bedroom was masculine and elegant, all dark woods and rich fabrics, with windows overlooking the nebula. But Sarah barely registered the decor because Cade was kissing her again, backing her toward the bed. Are you sure? He asked, his voice rough with desire and something deeper. We can stop if you're not ready. I'm sure, Sarah whispered, though her heart hammered with nervousness. His hands were gentle as he unzipped her gown, letting the emerald fabric pool at her feet. His eyes darkened as he looked at her, and Sarah fought the urge to cover herself. No one had ever seen her like this, vulnerable and exposed. You're beautiful, Cade said, his voice filled with wonder. He kissed her softly, then deeper, his hands exploring with careful reverence. So beautiful, Sarah. They moved to the bed, and Cade's touch was everywhere, worshipping every inch of skin, making her gasp and arch into him. Sarah had imagined this moment in secret, late-night fantasies she'd barely admitted to herself. But the reality was overwhelming in its intensity. When he finally moved to join their bodies, Sarah tensed involuntarily. She'd read about this, knew theoretically what to expect, but nothing prepared her for the sharp, burning pain that tore through her. She couldn't stop the cry that escaped, high and agonized. Cade froze instantly, his entire body going rigid. His face drained of color as he stared down at her. "Sarah," he breathed, his voice shaking. "What are you?" She was crying now, embarrassed and overwhelmed by the pain and emotion. "I'm sorry. Just give me a second. I'm okay." But he was pulling away, his expression shifting from shock to dawning horror. "You're a virgin." It wasn't a question. The evidence was unmistakable, the resistance, the blood, her inexperienced responses. Sarah covered her face with her hands, mortification flooding through her. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I should have told you. I didn't want you to think I was some naive child. You've been with sophisticated women like Natasha, and I." "Stop." Cade's hands gently pulled hers away from her face. His eyes were filled with something she couldn't name, shock, yes, but also wonder and guilt. "Sarah, do you understand what this means? You married a complete stranger. You agreed to this arrangement despite having no experience with men. You trusted me with something so precious, and I almost..." His voice broke, and he gathered her carefully into his arms, holding her as if she might shatter. "I'm so sorry. If I'd known, I would have been more careful, more gentle. I would have made sure you were ready." "You didn't do anything wrong," Sarah said, her face pressed against his chest. "I chose this. I chose you." Cade pulled back to look at her, his ice blue eyes intense with emotion. "Then let me do this right. Let me make this beautiful, not painful." What followed was the most tender experience of Sarah's life. Cade took his time, using every skill he possessed to prepare her body, whispering words of love and encouragement, making sure she was ready before trying again. When they finally came together successfully, there was still some discomfort, but it was overwhelmed by the intimacy of the moment, the feeling of complete connection. Afterward, they lay tangled together, both trembling from the intensity. Sarah felt tears sliding down her cheeks again, but these were different, tears of release, of being truly seen and chosen. "That changes everything," Cade said quietly, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "You weren't in this for money or status or social climbing. You couldn't have been, not when you'd never even been with a man before." "I told you from the beginning," Sarah whispered. "I only wanted to save Mira." "I know, but part of me always wondered if you were playing a long game. If eventually you'd show your true colors like Natasha did." He kissed her forehead. "You just proved beyond any doubt that you're nothing like her. You're real, Sarah. Everything about you is real." She looked up at him. "I'm in love with you, Cade. I know that's not part of our arrangement, and I know you don't believe in love. But I can't help it. I've fallen for you completely." Cade's expression transformed, the carefully controlled mask finally cracking to reveal raw vulnerability underneath. "I don't know if I believe in love," he said slowly. "I've spent 3 years protecting myself from feeling anything. But Sarah, whatever this is, this feeling that makes me happy for the first time in years, that makes me want to come home, that makes the thought of you leaving in 9 months unbearable, if that's love, then I love you too." Sarah's heart felt too full for her chest. "You love me?" "I love you," he repeated, the words seeming to surprise him even as he said them. "I didn't think I was capable of this anymore. But you changed everything." They made love again, slower this time, with growing confidence and deepening intimacy. Afterward, Sarah lay in Cade's arms watching the nebula swirl beyond the windows, feeling safe and cherished in a way she'd never experienced. "Dr. Zephyr is going to be smug," she murmured sleepily. "She warned me not to fall for you." Cade chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. "She warned me too, actually. Called me after our wedding and said if I hurt you, she'd find a way to make me regret it despite the species barrier. She's very protective. Because you're worth protecting." He kissed her temple. "But Sarah, I need you to understand something. My board of directors, they're not going to be happy about us actually falling in love. They expected a business arrangement they could dissolve cleanly. If they find out this is real, they might challenge the inheritance terms. Sarah propped herself up to look at him. Why would they do that? Because real feelings complicate things. It means I might make emotional decisions, put you before the company. The board wants predictability, control. His expression darkened. And my biggest rival, Marcus Chen, has been looking for any excuse to challenge my leadership. If he finds out we started as a contract marriage, he could use it against us. So what do we do? Cade's arms tightened around her. We're very careful. In public, we're the perfect business arrangement turned genuine. In private, we're us. And we pray that's enough to get through the next 9 months until the inheritance is secure. But even as he said it, Sarah felt a chill of premonition. Their happiness felt too fragile, too new to survive the scrutiny they were about to face. The next morning, Sarah woke in Cade's bed to find him watching her with an expression of soft wonder. "Good morning, wife," he said, and this time the word felt real. "Good morning, husband," she replied, smiling. They spent the morning in bed, talking and touching and learning each other's bodies with new freedom. It was perfect until Cade's comm unit chirped with an urgent message. His expression went cold as he read the screen. "Marcus Chen just filed a formal challenge to my inheritance claim. He's alleging our marriage is fraudulent, a sham designed to circumvent the will's terms." Sarah's stomach dropped. How could he possibly know? Someone talked. Maybe someone from the catering company where we met, or a disgruntled employee. Cade stood, pulling on clothes with sharp, angry movements. It doesn't matter. What matters is we now have to prove our marriage is genuine to a board of skeptical directors who will dissect every moment of our relationship. "We'll prove it," Sarah said firmly, wrapping herself in his shirt. "Because it is genuine. We love each other." Cade turned to her, his ice blue eyes blazing with determination and something that might have been fear. "I hope love is enough, Sarah. Because if we lose this fight, I don't just lose the company. The contract stipulates that if the marriage is proven fraudulent, you forfeit everything too, including Myra's continued treatment coverage." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. If they failed, Myra would die. Everything she'd sacrificed, everything they'd found together, would be destroyed. "Then we don't fail," she said, moving to stand before him. "We fight with everything we have. Together." Cade pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. "Together," he agreed. But neither of them could shake the feeling that their newfound happiness was about to be tested in ways they couldn't imagine.